Hello everyone. Good morning. This is day 9 of Virtual Connect with Group Theory. Today I am going to continue the discussion of applications of group theory in chemistry. Okay, let me proceed with the topic. The first application today we are going to see is hybridization. First of all, what is hybridization? It is the intermixing of atomic orbitals present in the central atom. Okay, listen, before forming a bond, the atomic orbitals present in the central atom, they mix together and form new set of orbitals. These new set of orbitals have same energy, same shape and same size, and these orbitals overlap with the orbitals of the surrounding atoms and form molecule. Okay, now group theory is a very important tool to identify what are all the suitable atomic orbitals of the atom to mix and form hybrid orbitals. Okay, so using group theory we can identify those orbitals which are available to form hybrids. Okay, so for this we have some procedure to do. Okay, so group theoretical method to predict the hybridization of the central atom in a molecule. What are the steps? These are the steps. Number 1, first identify the point group of the given molecule. Then we have to use some basis. Okay, here we are going to use bond vectors as basis. Suppose if the central atom has only bond vectors, only covalent bonds, then use bond vectors. Suppose if the central atom has lone pairs also, you know very well, lone pair also belong to a particular hybrid orbital. Therefore, you must use the lone pair orbitals also as bond vectors. Okay, then carry out the symmetry operations and determine the number of unshifted bond vectors. That gives you the reducible representation. Then reduce the reducible representations into irreducible representations. Then using these irreducible representation, you just analyze and find out the suitable orbitals to form the hybrid. Are you able to follow? Yeah. Now we'll see some example so that we'll get some clarity, right, in identifying the hybridization of the molecule. Okay. So the first example, here I have taken methane molecule as an example. We know very well methane molecule has tetrahedral shape and the point group of methane is Td. In Td point group, these are all the symmetry operations we have. Okay, identity, C3, C2 operation, S4 operation, dihedral plane operation, right, reflection. What is the order? Order is total number of operations. So totally we have 24 operations. Therefore, order of the group is 24. Okay, now listen what I am going to do. In each bond you fix a vector. In each bond you fix a vector. These are all called bond vectors. So I am going to use these bond vectors as basis. So what you have to do? You have to find out number of unshifted bond vectors. Okay, by carrying out these operations on the molecule. Right. So first, what is identity operation? Doing nothing. Therefore, all the 4 bond vectors remains as such. Therefore, number of unshifted bond vector is 4. If you do C3, you know very well C3 axis passing through one of the carbon CH bond. Right. So you can take any carbon CH bond. So I will take here. Right. Suppose if you fix an axis passing through this bond and if you rotate, what will happen? The remaining 3 bond vectors, they shift their position. Whereas this bond vector is present in the axis, along the axis. Therefore, that bond vector remains unshifted. So number of unshifted bond vector is 1. Okay. Then what about C2? You know very well C2 axis passing between the 4 hydrogen atoms. See, for example, I'll show one C2 axis here. We have discussed already. Okay, anyway, I'll show you. So this C2 axis passing through through the centers of these two hydrogen as well as the centers of these two hydrogen. So if you rotate by 180 degree, this bond will come here, this bond will go here, and this bond will come here, and this bond will go here. Therefore, all the 4 bond vectors get shifted. So number of unshifted bond vector is 0. Okay, then S4 operation. What is S4 operation? You have to do rotation, okay, by 90 degree. Listen, this rotation axis is passing through carbon. Okay, we have discussed this, right, in the first lecture, where we took the molecule in a cube and we carried out the rotation and all, right? So just go through that once again. So if you analyze the bond vectors, okay, while doing S4 operation, listen, all the bond vectors get shifted in the rotation itself, right? So you need not worry about reflection then, because in the rotation itself the bond vectors get shifted. So number of unshifted bond vector is 0. Then what is dihedral plane? You know very well, dihedral plane passing through 2 CH bonds. Okay, so suppose if I keep a plane here passing through these 2 hydrogen and the carbon, that plane will be in between these 2 hydrogen. So if you do reflection, this bond vector will reflect here, this bond vector will reflect here. Okay, these 2 bond vector remains as such. So number of unshifted bond vector is 2. Are you able to follow? Yeah. So we must identify number of bond vectors, number of unshifted bond vectors, okay, by carrying out these symmetry operations on the molecule, right? And this is considered as the reducible representation. Since we are considering only sigma bonds here, so this representation corresponds to sigma representation, sigma bond representation, and we are going to find out sigma hybridization only here. Participants, we can also find the pi hybridization in some molecules, but I am not going to do pi hybridization in this course. Okay, I am going to do only sigma hybridization. Yeah. So this is the reducible representation. If you reduce this representation using the reduction formula, right, you will get this answer. Okay, you will get one A1 and one T2. A means 1 dimension, T means 3 dimension. So 3 plus 1, 4. See the identity character also 4. So the reduction that we performed is 100% correct. Then now see, we have reduced and we got the symmetry species for the hybrid orbitals. Okay, so we have to choose one orbital from A1 symmetry and one set from T2 symmetry, one set. Okay, what is meant by that? See, if you see the character table of TD point group, okay, I have not given the table here. You just keep the table with you and then you just analyze this. Okay, and along A1, if you see A1 is totally symmetric. A1 is totally symmetric irreducible representation. Listen, S orbital is spherical in shape, so this orbital, right, must belong to totally symmetric irreducible representation in all point group. Keep this in your mind. S orbital, since it is spherical in shape, S orbital belongs to totally symmetric irreducible representation, right, in all point group, right? So yes, in the character table, right, S orbital information is not available there, but keep this in your mind. Always S orbital must belong to A1 representation. So along A1 we have S orbital. Then in T2, in the third column we have this set X, Y, Z set, and in the fourth column we have this set X, Y, X, Z and Y, Z set. See, X, Y, Z, these are all corresponds to p orbitals. X, Y, X, Z, Y, Z, these are all corresponds to d orbitals. So what you have to do? You have to choose, listen, since our representation has one A1, one T2, so we should choose one orbital from A1 and one set from T2, because T means triply degenerate. Triply degenerate. So you have to choose either this triply degenerate set or this triply degenerate set, anyone. Okay. So I'll give you the possible hybridization first. What are the possible hybridization? One S and 3 p orbitals, right? S, px, py, pz. This gives you an hybridization of sp3, right? So the hybridization is sp3. what are all the orbitals involved? Atomic orbitals, 1 s orbital and 3 p orbitals. What is the other possible hybridization? 1 s orbital and 1 set of d orbitals, dxy, dxz, dyz. So if these 4 mixes, you will get sd3 hybridization. Listen, participants, we should be very careful here that group theory will give you only the possible hybridizations. Group theory never tells you, okay, what is the actual hybridization of the molecule. It will give you the possibility, right? Okay, so there are 2 possibilities available in this case. Are you able to understand? Yeah, but now using our basic chemistry knowledge, we have to identify which is the suitable hybridization for this molecule. Since the central atom is carbon, the valence shell of carbon has only s orbital and p orbital, 2s, 2p, right? Therefore, we can say that this is the correct hybridization for methane molecule. Are you able to understand? This is not the correct hybridization for all molecule. For methane, it is okay, right? Yeah. Then now I'll take another molecule. Now we'll do the hybridization analysis in water molecule. Okay. See, water molecule has bent shape and it has 2 lone pairs. I have shown this lone pair like this. This lone pair is actually facing towards us, and this lone pair is behind the screen. Just imagine like that. Okay, it is facing towards us and that lone pair is behind the screen. Now the z axis, that is the principal axis passing in between these 2 lone pair, and it is passing through oxygen, and it also passing in between these 2 hydrogen. So principal axis is here. Okay, and you know very well water molecule belongs to C2V point group. These are all the symmetry operations. Order is 4, class is okay. Now, so water molecule belongs to C2V point group. Therefore, we have to find out number of unshifted bond vectors. So I'll fix 1 vector along this bond, 1 vector along this bond, and 2 vectors along the lone pair orbitals. Okay, this is one bond vector, this is another bond vector. So we have 2 bond vectors here. So totally we have 4 bond vectors. Now I am going to carry out the operations and I am going to find out how many bond vectors are unshifted. Okay, identity operation means doing nothing. So all the 4 bond vectors remains as such. So in the place of E, I'll put 4. All the 4 vectors are bond unshifted. C2Z, listen, along this axis, if you rotate by 180 degree, all the 4 bond vectors get shifted. Correct? This hydrogen will come here, this hydrogen will go here, the front lone pair will go back and the back one will come front. So all the bond vectors get shifted. So number of unshifted vectors is 0. Then what is sigma Vxz? Sigma Vxz, listen, x-axis is perpendicular to the screen. Okay, this is y-axis. Y and z are in the plane. Okay, this is y. Okay, y and z are in the plane of the screen. X-axis is perpendicular. So if you keep a plane passing through x and z, that plane passes in between these 2 hydrogen. Okay, in between these, and it passes through these 2 lone pairs. Correct? Because x-axis is perpendicular and this lone pair is towards you and that lone pair is behind the screen. So when you keep a mirror plane passing through x-axis and z-axis, the mirror plane passes through the 2 lone pairs. Okay, so if you do reflection, this hydrogen will reflect here, this hydrogen will reflect here. So these 2 bond vectors get shifted, whereas these 2 bond vectors, since they are in the plane of the mirror plane, so they never get shifted. So number of unshifted bond vector is 2. Then sigma V YZ, sigma V YZ plane passing in between these 2 lone pair. It is passing in between these 2 lone pair and passes through these 2 bonds. Since it passes through these 2 bonds, and if you do reflection, these 2 bonds remains as such, whereas these 2 bond vectors, they get shifted. Okay, yeah, they exchange their position. So number of unshifted bond vector is again 2. Are you clear? Yeah, this is the reducible representation for water molecule. Now if you reduce this, okay, using the reduction formula, you will get the answer as 2a1 plus 1b1 plus 1b2. Okay, now using character table, if you analyze, listen, along a1 we have pz orbital. So in the character table along A1 we have pz orbital in column number 3 and dz square orbital in column 4. And as we all know, s orbital is totally symmetric, so it is always belong to totally symmetric irreducible representation. Okay, so s orbital also belong to A1. And along B1 third column we have px orbital, in fourth column we have dxz orbital. Along B2 third column we have py orbital and fourth column we have dyz orbital. Now since the irreducible representations are 2a1, 1b1, 1b2, we should choose 2 orbital from a1, 1 orbital from b1 and 1 orbital from b2. So we can write many possibilities. So first I will take these two. From a1 I will take these two orbitals, s and pz, s and pz. Then you take 1 orbital from b1, 1 orbital from b2, px and py. So this gives you, okay, an hybridization of sp3. Are you able to follow? So this is one possible hybridization for water molecule. What is the other possible hybridization? Take 2 orbitals, s and pz, okay, and 1 orbital from b1, another orbital from b2. Okay, now if you see this, this is another set where the hybridization is sp_d2. Similarly, you choose these 2 orbitals, s and d is a square, s and d is a square, then px py, px py. This will give you sp2d. Like this we can write many possibilities. Okay, so group theory will give you possible hybridizations, okay, for the bent geometry. Okay, now it is our duty to identify the correct hybridization or the suitable hybridization. Since the central atom is oxygen, oxygen valence shell has only 2s and 2p orbitals. Okay, it does not have d orbital, therefore the suitable hybridization, right, in this case is the sp3 hybridization. Yeah, so this is the group theoretical method of analyzing hybrid orbitals of a molecule. Okay, so here we have discussed 2 examples. Go through the examples, and many examples are available in books. Okay, you try to do in your own and check whether it is possible for you to analyze the hybrid orbitals or not. Okay, yeah. Now I'll go to the next application, molecular orbitals, right, for non-linear molecules, polyatomic molecules, right, non-linear polyatomic molecules. That is a molecule containing 3 atoms or 4 atoms or 5 atoms, like that. Okay, now I'm not going to discuss linear molecule here in this course because we don't have that much time. So I'm going to discuss non-linear molecule here. See, in molecular orbital, you know very well, in the case of diatomic molecule, right, atomic orbital of one atom, atomic orbital of another atom, if they have same energy and same symmetry, they combine, same energy or nearly same energy, they combine and form bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital. Okay, so this is the general idea of molecular orbital theory. Now if you go to polyatomic molecule, right, in polyatomic molecule we have a central atom, okay, and surrounding atoms. See, I am using some simple words, central atom, surrounding atoms. Okay, now these surrounding atoms, they form symmetry adapted linear combination of orbitals. Okay, they form SALCs, right? These SALCs forms orbitals. These orbitals are called group orbitals. I repeat, the surrounding atoms, okay, surrounding atoms form different SALCs, symmetry adapted linear combinations. Because of these SALCs, they form orbitals. Okay, these orbitals are called group orbitals. In the case of coordination compound, the ligands forms the group orbital. We call that group orbital as ligand group orbital. Okay, ligand group orbital. But here, since it is not a coordination compound, I am using the word just group orbital. Right? Now listen, each group orbital has specific symmetry. Okay, now the atomic orbital of central atom and the one of the group orbital having same symmetry combine and form bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital. Are you able to understand how molecular orbitals are formed? There is an atomic orbital of the central atom, and you take one orbital from the group. If the atomic orbital of the central atom and the orbital of the group, if they have same symmetry and nearly same energy, then they combine and form bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital. This is how molecular orbitals are formed in the case of polyatomic nonlinear molecules. Okay, yeah. Now I will explain this with an example so that you will get some clarity. Now listen, here I have taken water molecule as an example. You know very well water molecule belongs to C2V point group. Okay, here the central atom is oxygen and the surrounding atoms are hydrogen. Okay, and hydrogen atom has 1s orbitals. So the s orbitals, 1s orbitals are shown here. Okay, I am denoting this s orbital as s1 and this s orbital as s2 just to distinguish the two s orbitals. Okay, now, and this is the principal axis and this is the y-axis. So molecule is in the YZ plane, x-axis is perpendicular to the screen. Okay, done. Now what we have to do, in C2V point group, these are all the symmetry operations we have. You carry out the symmetry operation and find out number of unshifted orbitals. Okay, so or we can say number of unshifted hydrogen atom. Okay, and that gives you the reducible representation, right? So if you do identity operation, what is identity operation doing? Nothing. Therefore both the orbitals remains in the same position. So number of unshifted hydrogen atom is 2. See, you can take number of unshifted hydrogen atom, or you can say in the other way, number of unshifted s orbitals. Okay, yeah. So number of unshifted hydrogen atom is 2 here. Then if you do C2 rotation, okay, if you rotate, what will happen? This H will go here and that H will come here. So both the hydrogen exchange their position. So number of unshifted hydrogen is 0. Then what is x sigma v xz? Xz plane passing through z axis and x-axis. X-axis is perpendicular to the screen. Just imagine like that. Now if you keep a plane here, and if you do reflection, this hydrogen will reflect here and this hydrogen will reflect here. So both get shifted. So number of unshifted hydrogen atom is 0. Then what is YZ plane? YZ plane passing through the molecule. Okay, it passes through the oxygen as well as the 2 hydrogen, right? So since it passes through the molecule, if you do reflection, both the s orbital remains in the same position. So number of unshifted orbital is 2. Are you clear? And this gives you a representation called reducible representation, right? Now if you reduce this using the reduction formula, you will get the representation for the hydrogen atoms or s orbitals, right? So if you reduce, you will get the answer as A1 plus B2, right? Listen, A1 one dimension, B also one dimension, so you will get 2 SALCs. Okay, A1 corresponds to one symmetry adapted linear combination, B2 corresponds to another symmetry adapted linear combination. So these two surrounding atoms forms 2 SALCs. Okay, now we will apply projection operators, right, on the functions S1 or S2, and we'll identify what is the function that corresponds to A1. Okay, so so this is the formula of projection operator. Okay, what you have to do? First you have to carry out the symmetry operation on the function, then multiply that with the character of the irreducible representation, then add all the values, right? So in C2V point group, these are all the symmetry operations we have. Now I am going to take a basis. Say for example, I will take S1 orbital as basis, right? If you do identity operation, S1 remains as such. If you do C2Z, S1 will go to S2. Okay, S1 will become S2, correct? See, if you do C2 rotation, this S1 will go to S2's place. So S1 becomes S2. sigma Vxz. If you do sigma Vxz, this is the sigma Vxz plane. If you do reflection, S1 will again go to S2's place. So S1 become S2. If you do sigma Vyz passing through all the atoms, so S1 remains as such. Are you able to understand? So we have carried out the operation now. Now I am going to multiply these results with the character. Okay, now we are actually finding the function corresponds to A1 SALC, right? Okay, so A1 symmetry species as these characters in the character table. Okay, see, character table is given here, 1 1 1 1 1. Now what to do? Multiply the character and the result of the symmetry operation operated on the function. Okay, so this is the result and these are all the characters. Just multiply this. 1 into S1 is S1, S2, S2, S1. Now add all the values. If you add, you will get, see, S1 plus S1, 2S1 and 2S2. We are not interested on the constants. Okay, so you take out the common value here. So you remove the 2. If you remove the 2, you will get S1 plus S2. This is our function. Okay, so the A1 SALC has this form, or we can say the other way. Okay, the S1 plus S2, right, is 1 SALC corresponds to A1. Okay, and what is the meaning of this? Listen, both are positive. So both S1 and S2, they have positive sign. Are you able to understand this? Yeah, this is one group orbital. This is one group orbital, right? Then now what is the another group orbital corresponds to the SALC of B2. Okay, what you have to do? Take the symmetry operations, take the function S1, right, and carry out the operation on S1. You will get these results. Then for B2, the characters are 1, minus 1, minus 1, 1. Multiply this, you will get this answer, and if you add them, you will get 2S1 minus 2S2. So B2 representation, irreducible representation, okay, project the function S1 into S1 minus S2, and this is the orbital, group orbital, okay, corresponds to B2 irreducible representation. Okay, see, S1 minus S2 means S1 is positive, S2 is negative. So S1 is positive and S2 is negative. You will get the second group orbital. Are you able to follow? So the two hydrogen atom in water molecule, they form two group orbital, right? One has one group orbital, right, appears like this, and another group orbital appears like this. One group orbital belongs to A1 irreducible representation, the other one belongs to B2. Are you able to understand? Now, what is the next one? Now we have to identify the suitable atomic orbital of the central atom which form bond with this group orbital. So the first group orbital, what is the first group orbital? This is the first group orbital where the sign of the two s orbital are positive, right? So we have to choose a suitable atomic orbital of oxygen atom, okay, that can form molecular orbital with this group orbital. Okay, so listen now, since these orbitals are here, I am choosing a pz orbital. Okay, why it is pz? Because this is the z axis. So this orbital is called pz orbital, having positive sign below and negative sign above. Now see this, now these two, right, they are all having same sign, so they are in phase. Okay, all the lobes are in phase, therefore they combine and form molecular orbitals. Okay, so the suitable atomic orbital for A1 group orbital is pz. Okay, if you analyze the character table, listen, if you analyze the character table, see, pz orbital belongs to A1 representation. So listen, the atomic orbital that you are choosing must also belong to the same irreducible representation. That is very important, because they should have same symmetry. So the group orbital and the atomic orbital must have same symmetry, so they combine and form molecular orbital. Similarly, for the second irreducible representation, this is the structure of the group orbital, here we have minus sign, here we have plus. Similarly, the suitable atomic orbital for the second group orbital is actually py orbital. See, positive lobe and here positive, say they can combine. Similarly, negative lobe. So now this atomic orbital and this group orbital can combine and form molecular orbital. Okay, this p orbital is actually present in y-axis, right? So it is py orbital, and if you see the character table, py orbital belongs to, see, py orbital belongs to p2. So listen, the group orbital and the atomic orbital, okay, atomic orbital that they are going to combine, they must belong to same symmetry. Okay, then only they combine and form molecular orbital. Participants, here one thing you should keep in your mind, that when two atomic orbitals combine, they must have same symmetry, same energy or nearly equal energy. Group theory only tells you the symmetry species of the atomic orbitals. Okay, so which atomic orbital can combine with which atomic orbital, only that information you will get. But energy of the orbitals, okay, the energy informations, right, are not, you cannot get from group theory. For energy information, either you should go to experimental methods or you should go to quantum mechanics. Are you able to understand this? Yeah, then. And this is the molecular orbital diagram for water molecule. Here the atomic orbitals of oxygen. Okay, here I am taking only the valence atomic orbitals. S orbital, you know very well, S orbital is totally symmetric. It belongs to A1 representation. And Px, Py, Pz orbital, if you go through the character table, Pz belongs to A1, Px belongs to B1 and Py belongs to B2. So these are all the irreducible representations for P orbitals. And we have formed two group orbitals using symmetry adapted linear combination. What are the group orbital? One belongs to A1, the other one belongs to B2. Okay, these group orbitals have same energy. Okay, listen, the surrounding atom forms group orbitals. These group orbitals have same energy. Now, listen, first I'll take one group orbital which is having A1 symmetry. In the atomic orbital side, I have 2s orbital having A1 symmetry and 2p orbital also having A1 symmetry. So you can combine either this orbital with this or that orbital with this. So two possibilities are there. But now quantum mechanics play an important role. Listen, which orbital is actually close in energy? Experimentally or quantum mechanically, it was found that the 2p z orbital, right, is close in energy with the A1. See, in this diagram, the energy gap between these two appears like large. I am very sorry, I have drawn the diagram not very clearly. Actually, the energy of this group orbital will be close to this. So A1, this A1 will combine with this A1 and form molecular orbitals, bonding and anti-bonding. Okay, see here. So here this A1 orbital, 2s orbital, this 2s orbital does not involve or does not participate in bonding. So it goes to, it remains as a non-bonding orbital. Okay, so A1 here is non-bonding. Okay, then B2, this B2 and this B2, they combine and form a bonding molecular orbital and an anti-bonding molecular orbital. Right, then this A1, right, and this A1, right, these two combine and form a bonding molecular orbital and an anti-bonding molecular orbital. This is A1, A1 star. So this is A1, that is A1 star. So we'll get totally 6 molecular orbitals, right? In this molecular orbital, this is a non-bonding molecular orbital. Similarly here, this B1 orbital does not have any matching symmetry here. So B1 orbital remains as non-bonding orbital. Okay, so among the 6 molecular orbitals, A1, this A1, okay, is a non-bonding molecular orbital, and this B1 is another non-bonding molecular orbital. Are you able to follow? If you want to distinguish this A1 and this A1, you can put 1 here, you can put 2 here, just to differentiate. This is 1 A1, this is 2a1, or you can say that this is 2a1 star. Okay, yeah. So this is the molecular orbital diagram for water molecule. Now oxygen atom has atomic number of oxygen is 8 and it has 6 valence electron. Okay, so oxygen atom has 6 valence electron, and these SaLCs are formed by 2 hydrogen. Each hydrogen has 1 electron, so the 2 hydrogen has 2 electrons. Now 2 hydrogens have 2 electrons, so here we have 6, here we have 2, so total 8. So we have to arrange the 8 electrons in these molecular orbitals. Okay, you start fill the electrons from lowest molecular orbital, the orbital having lowest energy. So put 2 here, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so this is the arrangement of electrons in the molecular orbitals of water molecule. Okay, then this is the highest occupied molecular orbital, and this is the lowest unoccupied molecular orbital of water molecule. Are you clear? Yeah. Then one more information. See, all these molecular orbitals are sigma molecular orbitals. In water molecule we have only sigma molecular orbitals. Okay, so keep that in your mind. These are all sigma molecular orbitals or sigma electronic levels, right? Okay, now we'll see the second molecule. Now, yeah, here I have taken ammonia molecule. You know very well, ammonia molecule is trigonal pyramidal in shape. It belongs to C3b point group, and these are all the symmetry operations. Order of the group is 6. Order of the group is 6. So now what we have to do? I'll take the s orbitals of these hydrogens. See, central atom is nitrogen here, and we have 3 surrounding hydrogens. Okay, and hydrogen atom has 1s orbital. I'll represent this orbital as s1, this orbital as s2, and this orbital as s3. Okay, now we have to carry out the operations, and we should find out how many unshifted orbitals are present. So gamma h, this gamma h means, okay, number of unshifted hydrogen. If you carry out identity operation means doing nothing, so all the 3 orbital remains as such. So number of unshifted is 3. Then if you do C3 operation, then C3 axis is passing through nitrogen, right? So if you rotate by 120 degree, what will happen? All the 3 hydrogen get shifted. So number of unshifted hydrogen is 0. Okay, number of unshifted hydrogen is 0. Then we should carry out vertical plane reflection. Listen, reflection will do reflection along the reflection plane passing through one of the bond, right? It passing through one of the bond. Okay, so see, suppose you take this bond, this is sigma v1 plane. Sigma v1 plane passes through this hydrogen, and it is in between these 2 hydrogen. So if you do reflection, these 2 hydrogen exchange their position, whereas this hydrogen remains in the same position. So number of unshifted hydrogen atom is 1. Are you able to understand this? See, you can say this as number of unshifted hydrogen atom, or you can also say that number of unshifted s orbitals. Okay, and this gives you a reducible representation. If you reduce this representation using the reduction formula, okay, you will get the answer as A1 plus E. See, A1 is 1 dimension, E is 2 dimension, so totally we have 3 SaLCs. So this has 3 SaLCs because 3 orbitals are combining, right? Listen, I repeat once again. Before forming molecular orbitals, the surrounding atoms form group orbitals. Okay, how group orbitals are formed? By means of symmetry adapted linear combination. Okay, so we need to find out, okay, what are all the symmetry species which forms the SaLCs. Okay, so for this we have to carry out like this, and we found out that A1 and E, these 2 symmetry species forms the SaLCs. Okay, now we have to identify what is the actual the shape of the group orbital corresponds to the A1 corresponds to A1 irreducible representation. So what we have to do, take the projection operator corresponds to A1, apply the projection operator to the function S1. You can apply to S1 or S2 or S3, it's up to you. Okay, here I am taking only S1, right? So how to apply this? Listen, In C3 point group, these are all the symmetry operations we have. Okay, E, C3 square, sigma V1, sigma V2, sigma V3. Now, how this s orbital changes while carrying out this operation? Identity operation means doing nothing, so S1 remains as S1. If you do C3 operation, C3 means 120 degree rotation, right? If you rotate this molecule by 120 degree, this hydrogen will go here, correct? S2 will come here, S3 will come here. So where S1 will go? S1 will go to S3 place. So S1, okay, in C3 rotation, S1 will become S3. C3 square means 240 degree rotation. So S1 will go to S2 place. Sigma V1 means sigma V1 plane passing through S1. So S1 remains as such. Sigma V2 passing through S2. So if we keep a plane passing through S2, if we keep a plane here passing through S2, what will happen? And if you do reflection, S1 will go to S3 place, S3 will come here. So S1 will become S3. Are you able to understand? Similarly, if you keep a plane on sigma V3, S1 will become S2. So now we have carried out the operations. Now what to do? Take the characters of A1. What are the characters of A1? The characters of A1 are 1, 1, 1, 1. So take the characters, multiply these two. If you multiply these, you will get this answer, and add all the values. If you add, okay, you will get 2s1, 2s2 and 2s3. Now take the common coefficient, okay, so you will get s1 plus s2 plus s3. This is the actual function which corresponds to the group orbital having the SALC A1. Okay, I can say the other way. The SALC corresponds to A1, okay, has this function. Okay, so the projection operator corresponds to A1 representation. Project the function S1 to S1 plus S2 plus S3. Listen, all the s orbitals have same sign, plus 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 plus. Okay, so see, I'll show you. Yeah, see this. So in A1, for A1 representation, we get the SALC as S1 plus S2 plus S3. So all are having positive sign. This is one group orbital. Are you clear? Then, now what is the SALC corresponds to E? Actually, E is doubly degenerate set. So it has two orbitals actually. Two group orbitals are there. So we need to find out what are the two group orbital. Okay. So you have to carry out the same method of operation here. Okay. So S1 becomes like this. Then what are the characters of E? The characters of E is identity character is 2, C3 character is -1, sigma V is 0. So identity character is 2, C3 character is -1. You know very well C3 square belong to same class. So they must have same character. Okay. So put -1 here. All sigma V belongs to same class. So put the characters as 0, 0, 0. If you multiply these, you will get 2s1 minus s3 minus s2, and these are all 0. Okay, and if you add, you will get 2s1 minus s2 minus s3. So the projection operator corresponds to E, right? Project the function s1 into 2s1 minus s2 minus s3. This is one SALC of E. This is one SALC. Actually, E is doubly degenerate. So one more SALC is there. How to find the second SALC present in the E? Okay. Yeah. To find the other SALC, what you have to do? Listen, you just carry out rotation operation on this function. Okay. So I am carrying out the C3 rotation on this function. If you do C3 rotation, what will happen? See, this is 2s1. Listen, 2s1 means the size of that s1 orbital is larger. 2s1. Okay, and this is s2 and this is s3. If you carry out 120 degree rotation, what will happen? 2s1 will go to s3 place. Correct? So 2s1 becomes s3. So 2s3. Right? And s2 will come here, right? S2 will come to s1 place. So S2 become s1. Since S2 is having minus sign, keep the minus sign as such. Then S3 will come to S2's place. So S3 will become S2, and since this is minus, keep the minus sign as such. Now what you have to do? You have to subtract these two. So I am going to subtract, okay, this one from this. So if you subtract, what will happen? Minus or minus become plus. This become plus, and this become minus. So 2s1 plus s1, 3s1. So this is become 3s1 minus s2, and this is plus s2, they cancel. Here minus s3, and this become minus 2s3, so the total is minus 3s3. So you take 3 as common and remove the constant, you will get s1 minus s3. So s1 minus s3 is the another SALC present in the representation E. So we have found out the 3 SALCs of SALCs formed by the 3 hydrogen atom. Okay, the one is A1, right, which has the function s1 plus s2 plus s3. Okay, and this is the shape of the group orbital. Then in E we have 2 group orbital. One is 2s1 minus s2 minus s3. The second one is s1 minus s3. 2s1 minus s2 minus s3, okay, can be given as, so 2s orbital. So you are multiplying with the 2. So this orbital has larger size, right? So 2s1 and minus s2 minus s, since this is positive, you give plus sign. Since these two are negative, put minus minus. Then last one, s1 minus s3. So s1 positive, s3 is negative, s in the s2 place nothing. Are you able to understand? So these are the 3 group orbitals formed by 3 hydrogen atoms of ammonia. Now we have to identify the suitable atomic orbitals of nitrogen which can combine with these molecular orbitals, with these group orbitals. Okay, it is actually very easy. Listen, from the character table we can easily identify. See, for C3b point group, listen, for A1, which orbital is suitable? See, for A1 the suitable orbitals are Z and D is a square orbital. Okay, but the central atom here is nitrogen. Nitrogen does not contain D orbital in the valence shell, so you need not consider this orbital. But A1 is totally symmetric, so we should consider s orbital here. Okay, 2s orbital of nitrogen. Are you able to understand? So 2s orbital of nitrogen and 2pz orbital of nitrogen, they are having suitable symmetry to form or to combine with the group orbital A1. Okay, to combine with the group orbital A1. So for A1 we have 2 suitable orbitals. One is 2s, the other one is 2pz. Okay, then for E we have these 2 orbital px and py. So px is suitable for, px is actually suitable for this, and py is suitable for this one. Are you able to understand? So see this. So for the first group orbital, the suitable atomic orbital of nitrogen is 2s. You know very well, this group orbital has A1 symmetry and 2s orbital also has A1 symmetry. So this is a suitable orbital to form molecular orbitals. Okay. Similarly, for this group orbital, the suitable p orbital is p. This is px, right? The suitable p orbital is px, right? Which has positive lobe this side and negative lobe this side. So positive can combine, and negative lobes can combine this side. Okay, and the suitable orbital for this one is py. Okay. Now what is the molecular orbital diagram for ammonia? Okay. So in ammonia, the 3 hydrogen atoms forms SALCs, and because of this SALCs you will get 3 group orbitals. Okay, one belongs to A1 symmetry and the remaining 2 belongs to E symmetry. All are having same energy, they are degenerate. Remember, when surrounding atoms form group orbitals, these group orbitals will have same energy. Then for nitrogen atom we have 2s and 3 2p orbitals. 2s orbital belongs to A1 symmetry, A1. Okay, whereas the 2p orbitals belongs to A1 and the z orbital belongs to A1 and x and y belongs to E. Okay, now we should identify matching symmetry. So for the A1 group orbital, what are all the matching symmetry orbitals are available here? We have 2s having A1 symmetry and here pz having A1 symmetry. But now the quantum mechanics will say that which one is closer in energy, okay, with respect to this A1. Okay, yeah, experimentally it was found that 2s orbital, right, is closer in energy with the A1. So 2s orbital combined with the group orbital, one of the group orbital formed by hydrogen. So this A1 and this A1 combine and form bonding molecular orbital and anti-bonding molecular orbital. This is anti-bonding and this is bonding. So this A1 does not have any matching symmetry. So correct. So this A1 remains as non-bonding. Okay. Then the two E orbital, right? The two orbitals having E symmetry. Similarly, here two group orbitals having E symmetry, they combine and form bonding and anti-bonding molecular orbitals. So this is the molecular orbital diagram for ammonia molecule. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 molecular orbitals. In these 7 molecular orbitals, this one is the non-bonding molecular orbital, right? So in ammonia, the non-bonding molecular orbital is actually the pz orbital, right? Then nitrogen has 5 electrons in the valence shell, and the 3 hydrogen atoms, each hydrogen atom has 1 electron, so 3 hydrogen atom has 3 electrons. So 5 plus 3, 8 electrons. If you fill the 8 electrons in these molecular orbitals, okay, put 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, so you'll get 8. So now this becomes the highest occupied molecular orbital for ammonia. So this is the molecular orbital diagram of ammonia. So this is the procedure to construct molecular orbital diagram for non-linear molecules. Are you able to follow? Yeah. Then now we are going to see the next important application. That is application of group theory in electronic spectroscopy. Yeah. Listen, in electronic, you know very well, every electronic, if you take a molecule, right, molecule has number of electronic level. So here I have given electronic levels of a diatomic molecule. Okay. See, each electronic level has number of vibrational levels, and each vibration level has number of rotational levels. So when electronic transition occurs, okay, when molecule moves from one electronic level to another electronic level, what happens here is that not only electronic transition occurs, along with electronic transition, vibrational transition, rotational transition, right, all these transitions occurs along with that. Are you able to understand? So electronic transition is not a pure electronic one. Okay, along with electronic, vibrational and rotational transitions also will occur. Here rotational contribution is somewhat negligible, so I am not going to consider rotational here. Okay, I am going to consider only the vibrational transition which occurs along with the electronic transition. Are you able to understand? So this is the ground electronic level, which is represented as E0, and this is the next higher electronic level, E1. Like this we have number of electronic levels. Are you able to follow? Yeah. Now before we begin with, I like to give some more information. Listen, suppose if you take rotational levels present in a particular vibration level, suppose I will take this V0 level, the rotational levels present in V0, they are orthogonal to each other. Similarly, if you take this electronic level, in a given electronic level, two different vibrational levels are orthogonal to each other. Then in a molecule, two different electronic levels, okay, two different electronic levels are also orthogonal. Are you able to follow? Now, suppose if you take one vibrational level from this electronic level and one vibration level from the other electronic level of the same molecule, then the two vibrational levels are not orthogonal. Keep this in your mind. Listen, two vibrational levels within the same electronic level, they are orthogonal. But if you take one vibration level from one electronic and another vibration level from another electronic level, then those two are not orthogonal to each other. Are you clear? Yeah. Now, you know very well, for any transition to occur, the transition probability should have some value. Okay, it should not be 0. We know very well transition probability is directly proportional to square of the transition moment integral, right? So if transition moment integral is 0, transition probability becomes 0. What is transition moment integral? Transition moment integral equal to excited state wave function, dipole operator and ground state wave function. Listen, why we are taking dipole operator? When electronic transition occurs, the electron cloud, okay, the electron cloud moves to some place of the molecule, which makes the molecule getting charge separation. So the excitation of electron creates dipole in the molecule. That's why we are using dipole operator here. Are you able to understand? Then the ground state wave function. Listen, ground electronic level has electronic part of the wave function, vibrational part of the wave function, as well as the spin part. Dear participant, I am not including rotation wave part here because the rotational contribution is negligible, so I am not going to consider that. Okay, so this is the ground electronic wave function. Similarly, the excited electronic wave function is represented like this. Okay, this prime symbol indicates excited states. Then this dipole operator, right, it has two components. One is electronic dipole moment, the other one is nuclear dipole moment. You know very well, when nuclear dipole moment means it is due to vibration. If vibration occurs, then also charge separation may happen, or the electronic clouds, right, get displaced. So the dipole moment, okay, has two components. One is due to electronic part, the other one is nuclear part. Are you able to understand? So now you substitute these here. If you substitute these here, you will get the integral as, listen, so excited state wave function is this, and the dipole operator has two components, and the ground state wave function is this. Okay, and you can split the d tau into three parts: d tau for electronic, d tau for nuclear, and d tau for spin. Are you clear? Now since you have plus sign here, you can separate this into two integrals. Okay, this is integral 1 and plus this is integral 2. In the first integral we have the electronic dipole moment operator, and in the second integral we have the nuclear dipole moment operator. Now listen, this electronic dipole moment operator operates only on electronic function. Therefore the vibrational and spin functions are just constants here, so you can take it out and you can write this as, listen, psi v prime, psi v can be combined, and you can write this in a separate integral. Similarly, psi s prime and psi s you can combine and you can write in a separate integral, and the remaining one psi e prime, mu e and psi e, that form a separate integral. Okay, you can separate like this. Mu e operates only on psi e, so you cannot separate this, so you have to keep them as such. Similarly, you have to separate this integral into three parts. Now listen, see these two. This is vibrational wave function of ground electronic level. This is vibrational wave function of excited electronic level, right? So vibrational wave functions of two different electronic levels are not orthogonal, so this integration is not 0. Similarly, this integration becomes 0 if the spin multiplicity of the two wave functions are different. I'll repeat once again. See, if the spin multiplicity of the ground state and the spin multiplicity of the excited state are different, then the two wave functions become orthogonal, then the integral becomes 0. Suppose if the two multiplicities are same, then the integral is non-zero. Are you able to understand? Yeah, then we have this part. So this integral is not 0. Whereas if we come here, in this case, listen, the ground electronic level and the higher energy electronic level, the two electronic levels of a same molecule, they are orthogonal. So this integral is 0, therefore this entire part becomes 0. So we left with only this one. So now we have the transition moment integral having three parts of integrations. Okay, this is the basis for the spin selection rule, and this is the basic for the electronic selection rule, and this one is the basis for the vibrational selection rule. Are you able to understand? Here these two vibrational levels, they overlap. They form overlapping. This is called overlapping integral. It is also called Franck-Condon factor. Okay, this integral is called Franck-Condon factor. Now listen, what is the selection rule based on these integrations? Okay, yeah, first one, spin selection rule. as I told you before, wave functions with different spin multiplicities are orthogonal. Therefore, spin multiplicities of the ground, so wave functions with the different spin multiplicities, right? Wave functions with the different spin multiplicities are orthogonal. Therefore, spin multiplicity of the ground electronic level, and this excited electronic level should be same. Okay, then only the transition become allowed. Okay, so what is the meaning? Listen, singlet to singlet is allowed, triplet to triplet is allowed. Okay, singlet to triplet means the two wave function become orthogonal, so the transition moment integral becomes 0. Similarly, triplet to singlet also not allowed. Okay, so this is called spin selection rule. Then what is the vibrational selection rule? Since the vibrational part of the integration is it's called a Frank-Condon factor, and listen, these two wave functions belongs to two different electronic level, so they never become orthogonal. Therefore, any transition, any vibrational transitions are allowed. 0 to 0, 0 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3, right? Any transition is allowed, right, under vibrational part. Then third one is very, very important, electronic selection rule. What is electronic selection rule? Listen, so this is the electronic part of the integration. Listen, here this integral will be non-zero only if the direct product of these three, okay, belongs to totally symmetric irreducible representation. Am I right? Listen, so this psi e prime, direct product of mu e and direct product of psi e, if this direct product, okay, if the direct product of these three, if it is belongs to totally symmetric irreducible representation, or it contains a totally symmetric irreducible representation, then that integral become not zero. If the integral is not zero, then the transition is allowed transition. Okay, then this mu e, electronic dipole moment, can be separated into three components. Okay, x component, y component and z component. And you know very well, dipole moment is nothing but charge into distance. So taking out charge as common term, you can write this as exy, x plus y plus z. So if you introduce this in this integration, right, you can separate this integral into three parts. Now listen, if any one of this integral is non-zero, then this integral is non-zero. Therefore, transition dipole moment integral is non-zero. So the transition become allowed. Are you able to understand? So this is the electronic selection rule for electronic spectroscopy. Then now I'll take one example. See, in the case of water molecule, we have discussed the molecular orbital diagram of water molecule. In the molecular orbital diagram, so these are all the molecular orbitals present in water molecule. Okay, A1, B2, A1, B1, A2 star and B2 star and A2 star. This is not A2. Sorry. This is actually A1. Right, A1. Now listen. So this is the highest occupied molecular orbital. Right. So this is the highest occupied electronic level. So transition, there are many transition possible. B1 to B2 star, B1 to A2 star, right? Then A1 to B2 star. Okay, many transitions are possible. Now how to analyze which transition is allowed, which transitions are forbidden? Okay, listen. First I'll take this one, B1 to B2 transition. Correct? This is filled orbital, this is empty orbital. Okay, so whether this transition is possible or not. So B1 to B2. Listen, what you have to do, multiply the characters of these two. B1 direct product of B2. B2 star means the star indicate excited state, that's all. But the representation is B2 only. So take the direct product of B1 and B2. Listen, in the C2V character table, where is the C2V table? Yeah, C3V. In C2V table, yes, see here. In C2V table, B1 and B2, if you multiply, 1 into 1 is 1, minus 1 to minus 1 plus 1, 1 into minus 1 is minus 1, minus 1 into 1 minus 1. See, Now you will get a new set of characters. These characters corresponds to A2 representation, am I right? See 1, 1, minus 1, minus 1. It is A2. So in water molecule, if you take this B1 to B2, listen, direct product of B1 and B2 will give you A2. Now along A2, see column number 3. Listen, I am giving you the shortcut. Along A2, you see column number 3. See, along A2, you see column number 3. In third column, we don't have X or Y or Z here. Suppose if you have any one X or Y or Z, then the transition become allowed. Since none of the dipole operator is available here, therefore B1 to B2 star transition, right? Yeah, B1 to B2 star transition in water molecule is a forbidden transition. Now I will take the second one, B1 to A2 star transition, not A2 star, A1 star. Okay, B1 to A1 star transition. Listen, the direct product of B1 and A1, okay, if you multiply B1 and A1, since A1 is totally symmetric, if you multiply B1 and A1, you will get B1. I'm sorry, you will get B1, right? Now see the character table of C2V point group. In C2V point group, see along B1, in the third column we have X. Correct? We have X. Therefore, mu X, not mu Y. This is actually mu X. Mu X transforms like B1 symmetry. Okay, transforms like B1 symmetry. By mistake, I gave here is A2, so I calculated with A2. I'm sorry, this is actually A1 star, right? A1 star. So B1 to A1 star transition, whether it is allowed or not, what to do? Take the direct product of B1 and A1. Okay, I repeat once again, for molecular orbitals, okay, we use small letters, but small letters and big letters, they represent one and the same. Okay, so you need not confuse these things, right? So direct product of B1 and A1, since A1 is totally symmetric, B1 into A1 will give you B1. Now along B1 in the character table, you see along B1 in the third column we have X. So that means mu X, the electric dipole of X, right? Mu X transforms like B1 representation. Therefore the transition is allowed. Okay, or we can say in the other manner, listen, when you pass radiation, the X polarized light is responsible for this transition B1 to A1 star. Okay, so it is X polarized allowed transition, we can say the other way. Are you able to follow? Yeah, like this you can analyze the other transition, other possible transitions, like say A1 to B2 star, A1 to A1 star and all, right? This is the methodology. Okay, now we'll see the next molecule. Here I have taken formaldehyde. Formaldehyde also belong to C2V point group, and these are all the symmetry operations. Now we'll analyze. See, formaldehyde we have pi bond, so we have pi to pi star transition possible here, and oxygen atom has a lone pair, it has two lone pairs, so n to pi star also possible. Now I am going to analyze whether pi to pi star and n to pi star transition in formaldehyde are allowed or not symmetrically. Okay, how to do that? First I will take listen, here I'll keep this carbon and oxygen bond in this manner. So this is the Z axis and X axis is here. Now listen, X and Z are in the plane of screen, Y is perpendicular to the screen. Okay, because we kept the molecule like this. Now the pi molecular orbital have two lobes, one above the above this bond axis, and the other one is below the internuclear axis. Okay, and this one has positive sign, this one has negative sign. You know very well, positive negative are not charges. Okay, positive and negative indicates the sign of the wave functions. Okay, and this is the pi star orbital, right, of carbonyl group. Now what we have to do, listen, first I am going to analyze the pi to pi star transition. Listen, in the ground state, pi orbital has 2 electrons and pi star is empty. When you pass radiation, one electron gets excited. Okay, so that, see, this is paired, right? This is also paired. So this is singlet, this is also singlet. Singlet to singlet is allowed. So it is spin allowed transition. Now we have to check whether it is orbitally allowed or not, or electronically allowed or not. Okay, how to do that? What is the ground state wave function here? The representation for ground state is, okay, representation of pi into the representation of pi. Why? Because it has 2 electrons. For each electron we have to write a representation and you have to take the direct product. Okay, so ground state has 2 electrons in pi, so you have to multiply pi and pi. In the excited state, 1 electron is present in pi, the other electron is present in pi star. So excited state is obtained by multiplying the direct product of pi and the direct product of pi star. Are you able to understand? Now, how to find the representation for pi? So listen, you have to carry out the operations on pi bonding molecular orbital. Listen, if the sign of the orbital remains as such, put +1. If the sign changes, put -1. Why? Because this is a one-dimensional representation. In C2V, all irreducible representations are one dimension. So you should give either +1 or -1. Okay. Now, so identity operation means the 2 lobes remains as such. So you should give +1. Then if you do C2 rotation along z-axis, if you do C2 rotation, plus will come down and minus will go up. So sign will change. So we should give -1. Then what is sigma v xz? See, xz is in the plane of the screen. So if you place a molecular plane passing through the 2 lobes, and if you do reflection, the 2 lobes remains as such. So the character is +1. What about yz? Yz, listen, y-axis is perpendicular to the screen. So if you keep a plane passing through this carbon-oxygen bond, it will go in between these 2 lobes. So if you do reflection, plus will reflect down, minus will reflect up. So sign will change. Therefore, you'll get -1 here. Now, if you analyze the character table, 1 -1, 1 -1 corresponds to B1 irreducible representation. See, I am using small letter because here this irreducible representation corresponds to molecular orbitals. Okay. Similarly, you carry out the operation on pi star orbital. Okay. You will get a representation like this, 1 -1, 1 -1, and that corresponds to B1. So now, what is the ground state wave function? Ground state is nothing but pi into pi, right? So multiply the character of pi and pi. 1 square is 1, -1 square is 1, 1 square 1, -1 square is 1. So the ground state corresponds to 1 1 1 1 character, and that is nothing but A1. Okay. Then now we have to find out excited state character, right? So for excited state, you have to multiply pi and pi star. So 1 into 1 is 1, 1 into -1 is 1, then 1 into 1 1, -1 into -1 is also 1. So this is also belongs to A1 representation. Ground state, excited state, both belong to A1 representation. Now what you have to do, you multiply these two. Okay, you take the direct product of these two first. So A1 into A1, okay, since both are totally symmetric, so A1 into A1 will give you A1. Now in the character table, see, in the character table along A1, you see, along A1 in the third column we have Z. So this mu Z is there, so we say that it is mu Z. Mu E Z transforms like A1, therefore pi to pi star transition is allowed. Are you able to follow? Or we can say in the other way, this transition, pi to pi star transition, is allowed by Z polarized light of Z polarized component of the light. Okay, then. So this is the analysis for pi to pi star. Next, N to pi star transition. So for N to pi star transition, in the ground state, non-bonding orbital has 2 electron, pi star has no electron, empty. When excitation occurs, you will get 1 electron here and 1 electron here. This is paired spin. This also has paired spin. So both are singlet. Singlet to singlet is allowed. Now for ground state representation, since the 2 electrons in non-bonding level, you have to multiply the representation for non-bonding. Okay, N into N. For excited state, 1 electron is present in non-bonding, the other electron is present in pi star, so you have to multiply these two. Okay. Now non-bonding orbital, non-bonding electrons are actually py present in py orbital. Non-bonding orbital is py orbital here. Py orbital is perpendicular to the screen, okay, which is present on oxygen atom, right? So non-bonding orbital is actually py orbital present on the oxygen atom of carbonyl group, okay. This py orbital is actually perpendicular to the screen, okay. Now what you have to do, carry out the operation, symmetry operations on this orbital and identify whether the sign of the lobe changes or not. See, here we have positive sign and that lobe has negative sign. Identity operation keeps the orbitals as such, so +1. C to Z, if you rotate along Z axis by 180 degree, plus lobe will go back and minus lobe will come front. Therefore, sign of the lobe changes, so give -1. Sigma V XZ, XZ plane passing in between the two lobes, correct? It is passing through X axis and Z axis, okay. So it is passing exactly at the middle of the two lobes, and if you do reflection, plus will go back, minus will come front. Therefore, you will get -1. Sigma V YZ, YZ passing through the lobe, YZ passing through the lobe, so the two lobes remains as such. Therefore, you will get +1. Now, if you analyze the characters 1, -1, -1, 1 in the character table, this belongs to B2 irreducible representation. Are you able to understand? Now listen. So ground state wave function is equal to the direct product of non-bonding. Okay. So what is the direct product of non-bonding? Listen. Direct product of non-bonding is B2. So you have to carry out direct product of B2 and B2. You know very well, if you multiply two same irreducible representation, if you multiply two same one-dimensional irreducible representation, you will get the totally symmetric irreducible representation. So B2 into B2 is A1, okay. So this become A1. So ground state, the representation of ground state is A1. What is the representation for excited state? Excited state is nothing but, listen, I have given here, excited state is nothing but the direct product of the representation for n and representation for pi star, okay. So representation for n is B2 and the representation for pi star is B1. If you multiply B2 and B1, you will get the answer as A2, okay. Now if you see the table, in the character table along, listen, B2, direct product of B2 and B1 will give you the answer as A2. Now see the character table along A2, okay. In the third column we don't have X or Y or Z. Are you able to understand? X, Y, Z are absent here. That means this transition, which one? The N to pi star transition is actually forbidden transition. Listen, we are analyzing the electric dipole transition actually, right? So it is electric dipole forbidden, right? But if you see the A2 in that character table, A2, listen, in the third column we have RZ. Okay, listen, X, Y, Z are translational vector. Rx, Ry, Rz are rotational vector. Rotational vectors are the components for magnetic dipoles. So along A2 in the third column we have Rz. Therefore, this transition is electric dipole forbidden. But since it has Rz, okay, in A2, it is a magnetic dipole allowed transition. Are you able to understand? That's why N2 pi star transition, though it is symmetry forbidden, but in the spectrum, if you see, the N2 pi star will appear with weak intensity. Why it appears? If it is forbidden, it should not appear. But why it appears? It is because of this magnetic dipole allowedness. Are you able to understand? Since the transition is magnetic dipole allowed, okay, you will get the signal with weak intensity. Are you able to follow? Yeah. So N2 pi star transition in formaldehyde is electric dipole forbidden, but it is magnetic dipole allowed. That's why it appears with a small intensity or weak intensity. Are you clear? Yeah. So see, I have discussed two examples for electronic spectroscopy. One is water molecule, the other one is formaldehyde. In both the cases, what is the information that you have to keep in your mind is, listen, check the initial electronic level wave function and the final electronic level wave function. Multiply these two. Multiplication means direct product. Take the direct product of these two wave function. Okay, you will get a new representation, new irreducible representation. Check the new irreducible representation, and if in the character table, if the third column has x or y or z, then that transition will be allowed. If x, y, z are absent, right, in the third column, then that transition is forbidden. It is actually electric dipole forbidden. Okay, sometime electric dipole forbidden transition may appear in the spectrum. It may be due to some other factor. Okay, in formaldehyde, this is due to magnetic dipole allowed. Since the N2 pi star, right, is magnetic dipole allowed, so this signal appears with a weak intensity. Yeah, with this I have completed the electronic spectroscopy. I stop here. Thank you for your attention.